Well. It looks like we're back. And today, I'm just doing a short podcast about whether or not it's okay to suck. Specifically, if it's okay to be terrible at something when you first start out. And this is really going to be about getting over fear of failure and how to give yourself permission to be really bad at something and perform terribly in the beginning. And I say this because fear of failure is something that helped me back a lot in my life, and I want to help anyone I can dispel that notion. And so, if you don't start something, you'll never get good at it, and you'll never achieve what it is that you want to achieve. Problem is, I feel like we have this perfectionism complex sometimes, especially myself, where if I can't do it like my favorite YouTuber, if I can't, do it like the person I really admire right away, I won't do it because I'm afraid of getting judged. I'm afraid of being mocked. I'm just afraid of underperforming or not meeting my own expectations. And that's really not a great way to look at it, because you have to understand that everyone starts that way. Everyone starts somewhere, and you can't let insecurity keep you from working on your dreams and building something that really gives your life value and meaning, because you only have one life, and fear of what people are going to say and whether or not you're going to do good is not a good reason to not do something, especially when it's been on your heart and your mind for a long time. And so I think that it's very important that we sort of take the people that we admire and all the things that we're hoping and aspiring to be like, and putting that into perspective. So one of the things that I like to do is to find one of my favorite YouTubers or artists and go back to their earliest videos or their earliest live performances or their earliest songs. And you can find out that there's usually a huge difference between how they started out and how they are now. And when you realize that, it gives you you can give yourself permission based off of that to sort of just let go and make something and just do something, even if it's bad. You have to start somewhere, and it's the people who start and then keep going that are going to continue to learn, grow, and get over their failures and make something. And even if you do fail, so what? You're small, no one's probably watching. And so it's a perfect time to get over those hurdles and practice ignoring your insecurity. And even if people are watching, who cares, right? If you keep going, they'll watch you grow. And that's always a great thing to show someone. So I don't think you should really be worried about that. And one of my favorite bands that I use to sort of get over my fears is Bring Me the Horizon. They started out like 15, 16 years ago now. And if you look at one of their early performances, in my opinion, it's pretty darn bad. And they're not all that great. But now, they're pretty epic and they're pretty amazing. And they're getting more and more mainstream every time. But it took them 16 years to do this. And so I feel like a long-term mentality is also very, very important as well. If you're thinking just about the short term and you only care about getting the buck now, getting 1 million subscribers like right now, getting lots of Instagram followers right now, you might not be willing to put in all of the effort that it takes to actually accomplish those things unless you have a long-term mindset and you consistently put in maximum effort or the best effort you can over that long period of time. That's what's really going to increase your chances of growing and becoming successful. Of course, the only way you could ever get to that point is if you start at point number 1. The only way to get to point B, start at point A and keep going. And thus, failing at something and not being good at it is basically required. It's almost like a rite of passage. You have to start, you have to be bad at it, and you have to learn, and you have to keep going. It's a rite of passage. It's a basic requirement for doing things that you're not good at but you're passionate about. Whether it's learning music, learning to sing. Hey, if you want to learn to sing, you're going to have to accept the fact unless you're already naturally gifted, you need to accept the fact, you need to embrace the idea that you're going to sound terrible. You're going to make lots of squeaky noises. It's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be weird. But if you ever want to be a good singer, you have to start somewhere. You have to accept the fact that you're going to suck in the beginning. And so give yourself permission to suck. Seriously, sit yourself down and write out all of your fears. Write out your goals, what it is that you want to do, what it is you want to accomplish, and then write out your fears and insecurities about related to why you're not really starting. Write out what you're worried about, and also write out the comparisons that you're making between yourself and the people that you admire, and then sort of bring yourself to a realization that that's not realistic because they've been doing it for X amount of years, and you're just starting. And you can't judge yourself based on what other people are doing. And so, don't let fear stop you. Literally, give yourself permission to suck. That is totally okay. You are totally allowed to not be good at something in the beginning. And, even if you start and it takes longer than you want in order to get your results, you're going to have to keep going. It just means you haven't learned enough to get to where you want to go. You haven't achieved enough, and you haven't failed enough, because failure is the best teacher. And so give yourself permission to fail. Give yourself permission to suck horribly in the beginning. And you know what? If people say mean things to you, well, hey, they don't know you. They don't know where you're coming from. They don't know your vision. They don't know what you're trying to achieve. Ignore it. Delete those comments. Don't worry about it. Keep going. You have to give yourself permission to suck. Give yourself permission to be judged by others. Give yourself permission to delete those comments and keep going and not let it affect you. And honestly, even if you get poor results, say if you're doing it for a year and your channel is still not all that great, your Instagram is still not on fire like you wanted it to, don't let that stop you. If you quit now, you'll never get to where you want to be. The greatest way to ensure that you're not going to accomplish your goals is not, to be bad at something. It's not to be judged by other people. It's not to, really suck at it. No, it's to quit. It's to stop doing what it is that you want to accomplish. It's to give up because you suck, because you're being judged, because you're afraid of failure. If you do that, that in and of itself is the greatest failure. So never do that unless you decide that there's something even greater that you want. But to quit, that is the greatest failure. That's the only failure. Failure to get 1,000 likes on an Instagram post is completely acceptable, and that's completely fine because that happens to a lot of people. And you just got to take that, you got to learn from it, you got to analyze it, and you got to keep trying, you got to keep going, got to keep hustling, got to keep working hard. Eventually, you will be successful with the right mentality and the right amount of work. And I hope that today I've really helped you guys get a better mentality that it's okay to suck. It's okay to be terrible. It's totally okay to be judged by other people. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm not all that great. My YouTube channel is not on fire. My podcast is listened to by nobody. But yet here I am making the video, making the podcast. Why? Because I need to put in the work, and I've given myself permission to be incredibly bad at this right now in the beginning so that I can just push through these growing pains, these beginning stages, and learn enough and acquire enough knowledge and enough skills to actually be excellent at what I want to do, and maybe one day have a really nice big following because of that. And I would only get to 1,000 subscribers, 1,000 listens, if I've given myself permission to suck and be terrible in the beginning. And that's exactly what I've done, and that's exactly what I encourage you guys to do as well. So thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. With that being said, I love you all, and have an awesome day.